but I believe in an Australia where the media can publish, where journalists can do their investigations without fear or favour. That's what we're fighting for here.
Are you saying that the government has lent on the AFP to orchestrate these raids to throw your campaign off the rails?
I'm saying that this is the Turnbull government, embarrassed about the last 3 years of NBN. And who was the key minister in charge of the NBN for most of the last 3 years? None other than Malcolm Turnbull. This is about an arm of the government, the NBN, seeking an investigation to shut down the truth. Why is it that this government doesn't want Australians to know information about the cost blowouts of the NBN? Why is it that this government does not want Australians to know that under Malcolm Turnbull's leadership, Australia has slipped from 30th position in the world to 60th? Why is it that Malcolm Turnbull is so determined to stop Australians finding out the truth or the media being able to publish the truth?
I want to know the level of the imputation you're making here, drawing the government into this police action.
Well, let's be clear. The police have said that the NBN have asked them to launch this investigation last December. And let's talk about the NBN. I don't think Australians are going to fall for the idea that somehow the NBN lives on a different planet to Malcolm Turnbull. He was their minister. When he thought there was good news from the NBN, Malcolm Turnbull would have the happy snaps and the photos and the selfies and the rest of the razzmatazz with the NBN. The NBN has 2 shareholder minister directors sitting on their board. The board is appointed by the government. It is funded by the government. Let's be really clear about this. This is the Turnbull government, embarrassed by the lack of performance by NBN, launching an investigation designed to go after the whistleblowers. If the government's got nothing to hide, if the NBN is the success story that they say it is, why on earth are they going to such lengths to discourage the publication of the truth?
Mr. Shorten, what exactly is your allegation?
Sorry, Jason.
Are you then saying that government agencies are politically compromised by virtue of being government agencies, having boards appointed by the government?
I'm saying that Mr. Turnbull's politically compromised by the poor performance of the NBN, and he's... hang on, Jason, you asked a serious question. I'm going to do you the courtesy of giving you a serious answer. You asked about compromise. I tell you who's compromised in this country. It's Malcolm Turnbull. Malcolm Turnbull's been in charge of the largest infrastructure project in Australia's history, and it's a disaster. In 2013, he promised before the election it would cost $29 billion. It's now $56 billion. I think Australians have a right to know this. He promised a rollout of such ambition and scope, and it has never materialised. Let's put aside, indeed, anything to do with the police at this point and ask this simple question. Is Australia a better country or a worse country because these documents have been published? Is Australia a better country or a worse country because we've seen the extent of the incompetence and the ineptitude and the addiction to secrecy of the Turnbull government? We all know the answer to this question. This country and its people always do better when they're told the truth.
Mr. Shorten, what is
Sorry, we've got to say.
Is Mark Dreyfus fit to be an Attorney General, given he's implying that these raids have undermined confidence in the AFP?
Don't you love the Liberal Party? Whenever they're under pressure, they just want to chuck mud at the Labor Party. The truth of the matter here is that the NBN was promised to be $29 billion and it's now $56 billion. The truth of the matter is that the numbers are very ugly. The truth of the matter is that the government, and the NBN is part of the government, this government can't distance itself from the NBN when it suits it. 2 of its ministers sit as shareholder directors. This government has overseen some of the worst developments in NBN that we've seen. 2 of the shareholder ministers, I should say.
Mr. Shorten, what is your
Catalina.
The AFP has said that the government has had no bearing on their decision today. So are you saying that you don't believe the AFP? And just to take this question, Mark Dreyfus said that the AFP should have thought more and been more cautious about perceptions of carrying out...
Speak up, I couldn't hear the second
Mark
part.
Dreyfus says the AFP should have thought more and been more cautious about perceptions of carrying out a search in a campaign. Isn't that the Labor Party trying to influence the AFP?
Well, I made very clear that this AFP investigation was initiated at the request of the NBN Co. The NBN Co is the flagship of Malcolm Turnbull's time in government. This government cannot distance itself from the actions of the NBN Co. We know it's an unmitigated disaster. I think the public have the right to know the truth, don't they? I think you, the media, have the right to publish the truth. I think whistleblowers should have the capacity to be able to do their work and make sure that the people of Australia find out what they want. And don't take my word for about the importance of whistleblowers. I found a quote from none other than Malcolm Turnbull, but of course this is before he was Prime Minister, so we know that he is prone to changing his mind now he's in power. But he said on the 4th of August 2009, he said, so whistleblowers and leaks are part of the Canberra culture. And many would say, and I stress now, they're a very important part. And without whistleblowers being prepared to reveal what they perceive as wrongdoings on the part of governments, then a lot of wrongdoing would go unrevealed.
Mr. Shorten, what are you exactly alleging is taking place? Are you alleging that the government has directly requested or asked NBN Co to actually instigate this investigation? If that is what you're alleging, do you have a shred of evidence to back it up?
First of all, I don't accept the assumption of your question that somehow there's the government and then there's NBN Co. Like you're making out like they're two complete strangers who wouldn't know each other if they passed each other on the road. The truth of the matter is that NBN Co is a creature of government. And it is inconceivable that NBN Co would launch a police investigation and not make it clear to the owners of the company what is happening.
Mr. Shorten, you're not backing up Mr. Dreyfus here, aren't you? Admitting he's gone too far and got it wrong.
No, not at all. And I just want to make clear, when I talked about two shareholder ministers, there are two shareholder ministers and the government appoints people on the board. It is inconceivable that Malcolm Turnbull, who was the government minister for the NBN Co, it is inconceivable that when you've got one of the largest government business enterprises in Australia, and that's without doubt, that they would launch police investigations. These are relevant matters which you tell boards of directors. It is inconceivable that this government business enterprise is acting like a sort of a rogue gunman, unbeknownst to government, what they're doing. I don't buy that at all. And let's also be really straight up about what's happening here. There have been national security cabinet leaks. The government doesn't seem to have pursued them with the same sort of vigour. I don't know what they've done there. But we're very clear that when there are documents, and these documents don't go to national security, they go to the performance of a company. And these documents, many of them I understand, when Labor was in government, Labor just put online. But this government is so arrogant, so egotistical, that you're not allowed to publish any bad news, even if it affects billions of dollars of money and millions of Australians not getting the NBN Co that they deserve. And there is also that issue. Malcolm Turnbull used to believe that whistleblowers were part of the culture and served an important role. What does he say now? Sorry, you're right.
Use public interest protections for whistleblowers who leak to the media in this way?
I think that is something we now have to consider. Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
Have you or any members of your staff ever leaked any confidential documents to the media?
I don't think that's relevant to this at all, and certainly not that I recall, but I don't think that's relevant to this issue. The issue here is pretty straightforward. Sorry, I know there's a desire to ask questions, but let me have a crack at some answers first. It is really fundamental here what's at stake. The public have a right to know if billions of dollars are being wasted. Why is the government working so hard to deny the truth to Australians? Why is the government working so hard to chase down whistleblowers when the facts of themselves speak of their importance and they should be in the public domain? Sorry, someone was going to ask another question.
Do you support Mark Dreyfus's suggestions that the AFP has become politicised? I don't think you've made that clear.
Oh no, I've said very clearly, and I'm happy to say again, the integrity of the AFP is not the issue here at all. The AFP has a job to do. But let us not fall for the idea that somehow the NBN Co operates in this marvellous universe independent of the government. If the NBN Co had a story or a fact which the government thought would serve its political interests, you'd have a conga line of government ministers queuing up for the selfie. The government cannot pretend that it would not know about significant matters, investigating, calling in the police. What business in Australia, when it calls in the police for what it would be perceived to be a major matter, wouldn't notify its board?
All right, well, Mr. Shorten, you've told us what Commissioner Colvin said to you in that 1 minute conversation, but we don't know what you said to him. Did you say...
I said thank you for letting me know.
You didn't say this is not a good idea. Why? You didn't question the timing?
Let's be clear, Mark. I don't want any imputation that I would interfere in a police investigation. I know that's not what you're going to, but let me be very clear. Commissioner Colvin rang me, I rang him back. We had a discussion, which I noticed on my phone, lasted a total of 60 seconds. Put in the traditional, how are you? Thank you. He informed me of this. I said, thank you for informing me. That's it. But what I also know here is that the AFP is only following something which the NBN Co has commissioned. And you've got to ask yourselves, why is it a state secret that Prime Minister Turnbull and his various government agencies will go to such lengths to keep away from people? This information, much of it's already online now, it deserves to be out there, doesn't it? Why is it a secret that the costs of the program have blown out to $56 billion? Why is that such a dreadful secret, except a political government who are embarrassed by their own ineptitude? This is Malcolm Turnbull working very hard to protect his tattered reputation. The only job he's done in government seriously, other than be Prime Minister, is Communications Minister, and that's turned out to be a complete train wreck. And this is what this is all about, keeping the truth from the Australian people.
Mr. Shorten,
you've said that Malcolm Turnbull, as well as the NBN, called in this investigation. Does that mean that you're calling the AFP Commissioner a liar when he says that there was no influence by government?
No, and I'll say it again clearly. The NBN Co have called the investigation. But what I'm not doing is saying that the NBN Co is some separate entity from the Australian government. It's owned by the government. The board of directors are appointed by the government. It has shareholder ministers. It has a minister. I'm pretty sure you and I have both seen Malcolm Turnbull spruik about NBN in the past. The only problem is that when the news got bad, all of a sudden that became a state secret. That is not the way we should be running this country. This country should be about the right of you, the media, to publish facts. It should be about the right of journalists to pursue issues without fear or favour, fearlessly as you do. It's about the right of the public to know if Mr Turnbull's wasted so much money or not.
Mr. Shorten, what are you alleging?
You just said there have been national security cabinet leaks. The government doesn't seem to have pursued them with the same sort of vigour. Will you now expressly state that you actually believe that the government has pursued this?
Well, I think the NBN Co has asked the AFP. All I'm doing is telling... Well, again, you keep saying that the government's something different to the NBN Co. It's not. Just have a look at any of Malcolm Turnbull's propaganda he puts out about his time as minister. It's about the NBN Co. You can't want the NBN Co as your pet when the news is good, but then sort of act as if it's some sort of rogue agent and not with no line of sight to its decisions when it's about covering up for your ineptitude as a minister.
Right, Mr. Shorten, are you alleging...
Jason.
Mr. Shorten, can we be very clear? Do you believe that Mr. Dreyfus's comments were appropriate or were they inappropriate in relation to the way in which the AFP acted?
Let me be even clearer than that question. Mark Dreyfus has my confidence. Right, One more question.
Are you suggesting that Malcolm Turnbull and Mitchell Fifield have colluded with the NBN Co to set this up during an election campaign? That seems to be what you're suggesting, that there's some collusion there between the government and NBN Co to set this up now.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is in December of last year, an arm of the Malcolm Turnbull government, the NBN Co, asked the police to pursue an investigation into this matter. At the heart of this matter is the revelation in documents which have subsequently been printed in the media, which show massive cost blowouts, massive delays. The NBN Co is a national disgrace in the cost blowout and the lack of service to Australians, and I think Australian taxpayers deserve to know when Malcolm Turnbull's been wasting their money. Last question, thank you.
This investigation to the Labor Party 2 weeks into the campaign.
Oh, I think that the revelation that Malcolm Turnbull has managed to expand the cost of NBN from what he promised to be in 2013 from $29 billion to $56 billion, I think that is massively damaging. It's not even massively damaging alone for Malcolm Turnbull. This investigation isn't about me or Malcolm Turnbull. It's about the Australian people. The Australian people who pay their taxes, who go to work, have a right to know if they've got a government who can't roll out NBN on time, have got a right to know that the timetables for NBN have slowed down remarkably. They've got a right to know that Malcolm Turnbull's inflicted an inferior copper technology and crippling the NBN's potential in the future because of the short-sighted technology decisions. Most importantly, they've got a right to know that the costs have blown out from $29 to $56 billion a year. Remember, and I'll finish on this note, thank you. As I said, is this nation better or worse off because we know that there's been a massive blowout in costs Is this nation better or worse off because we know there's been a massive delay in the rollout of NBN? Of course this nation is better off. The government shouldn't be afraid of the truth. It shouldn't hide the truth. It should own the truth. Thank you, everyone. See you at our next function. Bye-bye.
That is Opposition Leader Bill Shorten speaking in Western Sydney, bombarded there with questions about those Australian Federal Police raids overnight targeting Labor Party officers. It obviously relates to the leak of NBN documents. The NBN referred that to police in December. They acted last night.